What if you've stopped believing in yourself altogether? Maybe you've heard it over and over. Be realistic. You can't. That's not for people like you. And after a while, you started to wonder if they were right. This episode is for you. Whether your belief is missing, barely hanging on, or the only thing keeping you going, you're not alone. You don't need a crowd. You don't need permission. You just need a spark. And if you don't have it yet, borrow mine until yours shows up. There's a kind of pain that doesn't come from being told no. It comes from being told nothing at all. No feedback, no encouragement, just silence. I've poured my heart into ideas, projects, and visions, and been met with silence. Not because they weren't good, but because they were inconvenient. But when you speak truth in systems built on silence, you can become the problem. Those moments taught me something. Sometimes being dismissed is the first sign you're doing something right. Silence doesn't mean you're not worthy. Sometimes it means you're ahead of your time. Sometimes it means your light makes others uncomfortable. And sometimes it means you're the one who has to clap first. Psychologist Albert Bandura defines self-efficiency as your belief in your ability to succeed. It's one of the strongest predecessors of resilience and achievement. But trauma, depression, anxiety can distort that belief. They create loops of self-doubt, fear, and shame. While in treatment, I learned how to challenge those loops and how to sit with discomfort and radically accept myself. And neuroscience backs it all up. Your brain can rewire itself. Here are a few tools I used. Cognitive restructuring, catching the "I'm not enough" thought and flipping it. Behavioral activation, doing one hard thing a day to prove you're still in the fight. And radical acceptance, sitting with the pain instead of running from it. Healing isn't pretty, it's gritty. It's choosing to show up when your brain says stay down. Now let's talk about addiction and how it wrecks your belief in yourself. There were days I woke up and said, I'm not drinking today. And I meant it. I believed it. But when addiction came knocking, it didn't ask for my permission. It just took over. And when that happened, I didn't just feel like I failed. I felt like I betrayed myself, especially as a parent, because being a parent comes with this unspoken contract. You'll show up, you'll protect, you'll be their safe place. And when addiction creeps in, it doesn't just rob me of control. It robbed my kids of the parent they deserved. I made promises to be present, to be patient, to be better. But then the irritability kicked in, the discontent, the rage that came out of nowhere, or the drink I swore I wouldn't touch. And suddenly I was watching myself break the very promises I made with full intention. The kind of failure cuts deep. It makes you question everything. You start to believe you're not fit to be a parent. You start to believe you're not capable of change. You even start to fear your kids would be better off without you. And that thought, that shame, it's unbearable. But here's what I learned in recovery. Addiction isn't a lack of love. It's not that I didn't love my child enough to stop. It's a disease that hijacks your ability to follow through. It manipulates your brain into behaving survival mode, meaning just one more. And the shame of failing yourself or the people you love doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you care. It means the promises matter to you. In treatment, I had to learn how to separate my intentions from my illness. I had to stop punishing myself for what I couldn't control and start focusing on what I could. I had to ask, what part did I play? What could I have done differently? What do I actually have control over? And slowly, with honesty and support with recovery and my sponsor, I began to rebuild my belief. Not the kind of belief that says I'll never mess up again, but the kind that says I can show up differently today. The kind that rebuilds trust, not with words, but with actions. The kind my child could eventually see and not just hear. Now let's talk about comparison. You look at people who seem to have it all together and think, why them? Why not me? But comparison doesn't motivate, it paralyzes. It steals your joy. It distracts you from your lane. I've held back ideas because I didn't want to be too much again. I've dimmed my light to make others comfortable, and I've told myself I'll start once I feel ready. But the truth is, waiting for permission or perfection, waiting for someone to validate you, it's all a trap. Their success doesn't take anything from you. It's just proof of what's possible. I used to think their spotlight meant I had to dim mine, but now I know light doesn't compete, it multiplies. So flip the script. If they could, why not me? You don't need a title to lead. You don't need applause to be impactful. You just need a little courage. Hey, and while you're at it, check on how you speak to yourself. I know because when in addiction, you break promises to yourself. You say, I won't drink today, and then you do, or so did I. You say, I'll stay calm, and then you explode, or so did I. And that cycle makes you feel like you can't trust yourself. I felt like, you're stupid. Like, Tara, you mess everything up. Like, Tara, you can't do anything right. But let me ask you this. Would you say that to your best friend? Would you look them in the eyes and say, you're worthless? No. You'd remind them that mistakes don't define them. You'd say, look, you're learning, you're trying, you're growing. So why don't you deserve that same grace? Learn to speak to yourself like someone you love. Not perfectly, not with fake positivity, but with truth. All you gotta do is start small. Replace I'm failing with every setback is setting me up for something greater. Replace I'm stupid with I'm learning faster than anyone who never tried. And replace I can't do anything right with every failure is teaching me something that success never could. Your inner voice is the loudest one you'll hear. Don't let it become the reason you stop trying. You don't have to be your own bully. Instead, you can be your own breakthrough. So how do you rebuild belief when addiction or something else has torn it down? Here's some of the things that worked for me. I borrowed belief. I leaned on others' belief in me until I could carry my own. I stacked small wins. I started with tiny actions like calling my sponsor, showing up to a meeting, choosing to pause instead of react. Those small choices helped me rebuild trust with myself. They reminded me I could follow through, even in the smallest ways. And over time, they retrained my brain to expect progress, not failure or perfection. Reframe comparison. I stopped seeing others as better and I saw them as proof of what is possible. I had to face my defects honestly. I named my patterns and took small steps to change them. And I also had to speak truth out loud. I replaced I'm broken with I'm healing. But belief doesn't come from motivational quotes. It comes from action. It comes from working with my sponsor, or so it did for me. I had to strip everything down. I had to stop blaming everyone else. That taught me how to take responsibility for my actions without drowning in the shame. I learned to own my story and not run from it. The more I removed possible resentment, the more I could stay positive. The more I stopped pointing the finger, the more I could see the light. I had to change the way I thought. I had to stop waiting for someone else to fix it. I had to stop asking why me and start asking what now. I didn't need 100% belief to start. I only needed enough to take the next step. Belief grows by doing, not by waiting to feel ready. Now let's just have you think back to a time where you survived something that you were sure would break you, but it didn't. You made it through. You proved yourself wrong in the best way. Now, think of one thing you've created. Maybe it's a habit, a boundary, a truth you finally claimed. Even if it's still unfolding, it's yours. You built it. You believed enough to begin. And finally, think of one thing you've released. A toxic pattern, a person who dimmed your light, a lie you once believed about who you were. You let it go. You chose yourself. Write those 3 things down. That's your proof. That's your foundation. You don't need a long list. You just need one moment of truth to remind you you're not where you used to be, and you can start believing. All right, let's bring it back to where we started. What if you don't believe in yourself at all? What if you're the only one that does? Or maybe you've heard it so many times. Be realistic. You can't. That's not for people like you. That you stop trying. If that's you, I see you. Whether your belief is missing, barely hanging on, or the only thing keeping you going, you're not alone. You don't need a crowd or permission. Like I said before, you just need a spark. And if you don't have it, borrow mine until yours shows up. Because here's the truth. Belief is not built in a day. It's built in the moments you show up when it's hard. It's built when you choose to take one step forward instead of just giving up. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be willing. So today, I want you to ask yourself, what would I do if I stopped waiting for someone else to believe in me? What would change if I stopped tearing myself down and started talking to myself like someone I love? Look, you're not broken. You're not behind. You are becoming. And becoming takes grace, time, and a whole lot of self-trust. So if no one else claps for you today, let me be the first. You're doing the work, you're showing up, and you're still here. That's enough to believe in. If you take nothing else from today, take this. Your belief doesn't have to be big. It just has to be yours. And if you don't have it yet, remember, you can borrow mine because I believe in you. Not because you've done everything right, not because you've figured it all out, but because you're still here, listening, learning, and choosing not to give up. That is proof enough. So here's your challenge this week. Write down one thing you're proud of surviving, one thing you're building, and one thing you let go. Keep that list where you can see it. That's your evidence. That's your belief in black and white. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who might need to borrow a little belief today. And remember, belief isn't about being fearless. It's about being faithful to the next step. Until next time, keep growing, keep going, and keep believing anyways. And always remember, This is our Muddy Magnolia Rebellion. And join me next week for the next episode.